What's up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY. Live on a Tuesday morning. Shout out everybody watching live on YouTube. Our mad chatters as we build a community of tens, perhaps hundreds, thousands that watch the show live every morning on PHLY. Just make sure you hit that subscribe button. Smash the subscribe button, like, comment, everything else. And if you can't watch it live, it's always available on YouTube whenever you want to. So check it out. Audio version, podcast available always. If you're listening on podcast right now, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because you're listening whenever you want to. So shout out to everybody that's watching. As always, Philly, brought to you by Bet Parks and Central City Toyota. I'm in an extra good mood today. The brain fog from the Tony Soprano panic attack is a little bit less today. So I'm actually feeling really good this morning. But I thought about this, right? Because I get up, depending on the day, I get up and I make 3 lunches, always 2, sometimes 1. Like if my daughter says she wants to buy, then it's like, oh, good, she wants to buy. So I only have to make 1 lunch. But today, all 3, nursery, school, and then school. So I'm making 3 lunches today. And so it takes an extra, and it's like an hour, like from when I finish and when I'm done. So I'll make like a big cup of coffee at home, and I'll enjoy the coffee, and I'll listen to my overnight radio show while I do everything or whatever. But then, like by the time I get to work, I don't have coffee. So this morning, I was like, you know what? Where is there a Starbucks? And they're not a sponsor of the show. Where is there a Starbucks close to our studios? And I found one. So I still have warm coffee in my mitts right now, because they have this little thing. The problem was I would stop on the way at Wawa up near my house in Collegeville. And by the time I got out to the car, it was cold. All right, well, maybe not that close, but pretty. You know this, Tyler. You're a Wawa guy. You go in the Wawa. I don't know if you're drinking Wawa coffee. It doesn't stay hot for a particularly long time.
No, Wawa coffee has 2 temperatures, and one is surface of the sun, and the other one is cold.
Remember McDonald's coffee was too hot, and it really was. And someone got burned. They put the coffee in their leg through the drive-thru, and then it spilled, and it like took the skin off their thighs, and they sued McDonald's. And people were like, "How could you sue McDonald's? You're the idiot that put the coffee in between your legs." It was too damn hot. Wawa doesn't. I mean, by the time all I'm saying is by the time I get to work, the coffee was never hot anymore. So I got some warm coffee, some lukewarm coffee right now. As we have a lot going on today, I am not going to start with the 76ers because they suck. They're intentionally losing. And why would I sit here? By the way, and I've been long gone from being mad at the 76ers. I'm not mad at all. Whatever. If they were able to figure this out and get Embiid healthy in 2028 or whatever year that he's going to be healthy again, fine. It's great. Devon Givens going to join us about 8:45. All right, so we'll talk about everything with that and like, what do they do next year? Are we just putting cologne on this team? Are we covering things up? Axe body spray next year on Paul George and Embiid, everything else. I'm just curious what Devon thinks about this entire situation with the Sixers, because it has been a total bleep show since training camp. It has been a total. I was calling him a clown show, right? So. Devon's coming up here at last block C of the program. Tyler Zulli is when Devon's going to join us. Phillies block B, and I can't wait to talk about this because the Phillies were on TV over the weekend. They have select games on the radio. So if I'm driving around, one of my favorite things to do in the summer is to have the Phillies game on, and then it's like, I got to run out for something, go out to the car, pop it on the radio. Scott in L.A. It's just, I love the summer pace, and I love the Phillies on the radio and on TV, of course. Second segment as well. Let's start off with the NFL. The Packers. Are the Packers going to try to ban the Tush Push? They put it out there. Big news coming down yesterday that one team specifically, according to NFL media, has proposed that the Tush Push is banned. Troy Vincent, who is a vice president with the NFL, came out and said, yep, there's a team. The competition committee is going to talk about it. Now, they need 24 teams to vote to put in a rule to ban the Tush Push, which is not going to happen, or I would be shocked if it happened this year, but that you're at least starting to see it. But the reason why the Packers are doing this, reportedly, according to reports, it's the Packers, is because they lost to the Eagles and they realize they're inferior to the Eagles, and this is their way of doing it. And you wonder if more teams are gonna pile on, or if teams are gonna say, no, we're not gonna. Why would we ban the tush push? Sorry, like we're gonna have to do it as well, right? So here is what Mark Murphy, who is the president of the Packers, said in February about the tush push. Quote, "I am not a fan of this play. There is no skill involved, and it is almost an automatic first down on plays of a yard or less. The series of plays with the Commanders jumping off sides in the NFC Championship game to try and stop the play was ridiculous. The referee even threatened to give the Eagles an automatic touchdown if the Commanders did not stop it. I would like to see the league prohibit pushing or aiding the runner on this play." And like he gave the real reason is that it's unstoppable. He would like to see this, and it's not a football player or whatever. There's no skill involved. There's a lot of buzzwords that these guys use, like there's no skill involved. Well, listen, if there's no skill involved, then why don't you take your friggin' team and with no skill involved, do this on every play from a yard out? Because everybody had a cheat code on a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and goal or 4th and goal from the 1 or 2 yard line. Why wouldn't they just use it if there's no skill involved? There actually is skill involved, Murphy. There is. And the Eagles are the team that can do it. You know why? They have a bigger offensive line than anybody else, and they have a quarterback who is well documented. He squats like 2,500 pounds or 500 pounds or whatever it is, right? So stop it. Stop it. Or you do it. Because if you can't stop it, and it has shown that the Eagles being the best team to do it, and the Bills are really the only other team that does it as well, that stop it. Or you do it. Because just because the Eagles have perfected a play doesn't mean that it needs to be banned. Honestly, if I'm the NFL, and it's going to come down to the GMs and the owners and whoever's on the competition committee, blah, 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 right? Like they're going to have to vote it out. They want it out. And ultimately, player safety is going to play a big part of this. There's absolutely no evidence out there that suggests that this is causing players to get injured, that this play is causing a higher injury rate and it's unsafe for the players. There's none. And it was weird. Sean McDermott, the other team that actually does the tush push, probably because they have a big, strong quarterback and they just quarterback sneak it, right? He's talking about like injury and he's worried about injury and guys getting injured. It was an odd comment because it works for you guys for the most part. But like, stop it. Then stop it. You just can't take a play out because you don't like it and you can't stop it and it's causing your team to lose. That's not the way it works. Stop it. Or you do it as well. And then if everybody's doing it and it makes the game suck, then the NFL will whack it. Honestly, for the NFL, this is an amazing play. And who would actually think something as stupid as a quarterback sneak with Dallas Goedert and whoever else pushing Jalen Hurts forward would be such an intriguing play? Because it's an intriguing play because it's unstoppable. The NFL is great because there's parity. On any given year, for the most part, any particular team could win a Super Bowl. We've seen it. Eagles won a Super Bowl in 2017 after they didn't make the playoffs and no one saw it coming. The Eagles won a Super Bowl a month ago after they had an epic and historic collapse the year before. Won a Super Bowl, right? Year to year, it's a year-to-year league. It's amazing. But you do need that one team, the Patriots of their run, the Chiefs of late, where you have this team at the top that, for the most part, the public doesn't like or has an opinion about. The Cowboys are going to be put out there, and they're going to get a lot of attention because they're the Cowboys. And believe me, when the Cowboys playing games, a lot of people tune in, so there's something to it. But the Eagles being this annoying franchise with this annoying fan base that does this tush push that can't be stopped is great for the NFL. Because now it's stop us, stop us, stop us. And you need that. You need a villain. You need somebody that is like Eagles aren't at the dynasty level or at anything like that. Like you go to another Super Bowl, you win another Super Bowl, you're there, right? And the tush push is the secret. The secret. They have great players, But what sets them apart is on a short yardage situation, you can't be stopped. And it's one of the reasons why the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. So bring it. Murphy, whatever owners or GMs, you need 24 votes to stop this. All right. And just because the Commanders are firing off sides and it looked ridiculous, isn't that on the team? Wasn't that whole scenario really amazing that you found out a rule that's never actually been enforced where they can just give the Eagles a touchdown? Like, no one knew that was out there. It's because of the friggin' tush push. This is great for the NFL. The tush push, as long as it's just the Eagles and maybe another team, if there's 20 teams that are doing this, I would want to see it gone. I don't need to see it anymore. And let me be perfectly clear about this. If I wasn't an Eagle fan, I would hate it, but it brings me a lot of joy to see a lot of the National Football writers and analysts really support the Eagles and say, what's unfair about it? Like, anybody can do it. The Eagles just do it better than anybody else. Stop it. Go do it yourself. So I don't think it's going anywhere. They're not going to have the votes to get it out. They're not going to have 24 teams to do it. So this portion of the show brought to you by Glatt Hair Restoration, GLAT Hair MM.com, 610-980-4000. Tyler Zuli, good morning to you again, buddy. What's going on?
Yeah, good morning to you as well. And I think you're right. I think the merit of this argument is flawed because it's not about success rate of one team. If there were a multiplicity of teams that were doing this, and as you said, a third or 2/3 or a half or whatever of the league had the capability of doing this, then the league probably would look at it and go, it's an unfair offensive advantage in short yardage situations. But I look around the rest of the league, and the team that I used to you in the scenario as to why don't other teams do it is the Detroit Lions, because I think the Lions have maybe not as, like the Eagles, I still think have the best offensive line in football. The Lions, to me, have been right up there. They're 2 or 3 in that list. They have a bunch of really. Sewell's been a stud every year he's been in the NFL. Ragnall's been good. They've had a bunch of different pieces that have been a really good offensive line. Why can't they do it? Because, well, in part, I don't think Jared Goff could run it, and B, it doesn't work collectively. The Eagles, as you brought up, have a collection of talent that allows them to run this play. An elite offensive line paired with an incredibly strong quarterback who has the capability to, fight his way for that yard or 2 yards or whatever the case may be. The argument that I think a lot of teams will take if they're trying to deflate this is the health and safety, which you brought up, I don't believe is any different than a traditional quarterback sneak. I don't believe is any different than a dog pile fight for the football when the ball squirts out and it's a loose ball and guys are diving. Like the stories that you hear from offensive linemen and tight ends and things like that of what goes on in scrums when the ball is on the ground, the things like the low blows and the whatever, everything's like feels like it's on the table when you're in a scrum like that. That to me equates to a much more health and safety protocol thing than this individual play, especially considering quarterback sneaks have been a play for decades.
Forever. Seriously, talking about health and safety. So if you give a running back a football and he goes flying in like a missile to try to jump over the pile or get through the pile, isn't there a greater cause for concern on injury on that play where a guy is coming at a much higher velocity?
Well, I think about when you bring that scenario up, I think about the guy that used to just like projectile launch himself over the line to the best out of all of them, LaDainian Tomlinson. Was just unbelievable at getting airborne and scoring.
Walter Payton
was probably the originator of that, right? My thing is, if you're going to talk about collection of bodies and injuries that could possibly happen, to me it feels like this play is almost safer than that airborne leap.
Totally.
Because the quarterback or the ball carrier is still on his feet. There's always a risk of getting bent backwards, right? Or like your knee going one way and your body going the other, whatever the case may be. It's just a collection of large individuals trying to, hurt each other effectively. But when you leave your feet, when you go airborne, you don't have a whole lot of body control in the air. That, I think, to me, would be the more dangerous of the play. So if you're going to comp the two, I think that even that is more dangerous than what the tush push has become.
Yeah, like let them get injured. Let there be serious injuries by quarterbacks. Let's see the injuries. Then you can make a case. Otherwise, you just want to stop because it's kind of like, well, why isn't it fair? Well, it's not. I had someone tell me that it's not a football play, it's a rugby play, which is a tired thing that I've heard for years now. And it's not in the spirit of what the NFL is doing the play. It's not, right? It's like, okay. So you're telling me back in, what do we say, the 40s, where they didn't wear helmets and they were throwing around a freaking, like a mango or something. You know what I mean? Like, give me a break. The spirit of when they created the game, that it's not a football play. They didn't throw the freaking ball. Like Joe Paterno in the 80s running a 3 fullback, freaking triple option, whatever it is, right? Like, so a fullback dive, that takes skill. Hand the ball off to some big, slow white guy. Like, give me a freaking break. Hey, look back in the 60s and the 70s at how much they threw the ball back then. It's a different league. The league evolves. If they're going to make a rule that says you can't push the quarterback or any runner from behind, okay, then you're going to make that rule, right? But that was only become a concern because the Eagles have freaking perfected this play. So it's so weak from the Packers. It's so soft.
Just because
Packers are so soft.
Just because I love having these conversations. Let me ask you a question, John. In 1970, because you bring up the 70s. In 1970, the NFL MVP was John Brody, the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. Do you want to take a guess at how many yards he threw for in 1970?
2,941, because I'm actually looking at the 1970 year. I don't know why we're both looking at 1970, but we are.
I'm like, damn, that's impressive, John. That's incredible knowledge by
you. Third in the NFL that year was Jim Hart, who had 14 touchdowns and 18 interceptions and a 45% completion percentage. He was third in passing. So screw you, Packers. Take your spirit of the game and no skill. Yeah, Jim Hart.
There were 9 different players, and I think it's actually more than that, but it's the top 9 in terms of interceptions. All 9 of those quarterbacks threw more picks than they did touchdowns. Terry Bradshaw that year had a 38% completion percentage, threw 6 touchdowns and 24 interceptions.
He's a Hall of Famer too. Bart Starr starting for the Packers that year, 8 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Screw you, Packers. You take your skill play and go elsewhere. Shove it up your nose like a rubber hose. All right, real quick here, because we're going to do, I want to do Phillies next segment. So I saw Pro Football Focus came out with contract projections. And these are far more believable than what we saw in the other places, right? So it has Josh Sweat, 3 years, $54 million, 32 guaranteed. Makes sense. Milton Williams. Didn't you agree the projections we had before, Milton Williams was like, he's getting more money than that. Pro Football Focus has Milton Williams, 3 years, 63, 40 million guaranteed. So average annual $21 million a year. That sounds yes to me.
You know what's funny? I actually think if I were to project Milton Williams, would you think he gets more years than that or more money than that? Because I think a 4th year might be in play.
Well, I mean, it's all about what's that? Is the 4th year?
What's guaranteed?
We can cut him.
Sure.
I look at a Hargrave contract, maybe with 1 more year, to your point. Zach Bond, 3 for 45, $29 million guaranteed. $15 million. That's interesting. I wonder if he gets that. Mekhi Becton. So I've changed my opinion on Becton coming back if, as projected by Pro Football Focus, 3 for 30 with $18 million guaranteed. It's essentially a 2-year contract with $18 million guaranteed. $10 million a year. It's a 2-year contract.
If that's the number, he's going to be back.
I would tend to agree. And here's also something I was thinking about, and it goes to the tush push. If your offense is going to be, hey, we're bigger and fatter and stronger than everybody else, Becton's a monster. And you saw him in the run game, how big of a factor he can be next to Lane Johnson. And Cam Jurgens is a little bit undersized too, right? So it helps out with that. So if they look at it and they say, well, he's not getting $30 million guaranteed. It's really a 2-year contract, and he wants to be here. So that's how Becton comes back. And then Isaiah Rodgers is 1 year, $3 million and $1 million guaranteed. So maybe I don't know. It seems like that maybe he would go. All right, coming up, the Philadelphia Phillies. We've got the Phillies fever here on Philly with John Marks. And the games are being played. I've seen them with my own eyes. The lineup is also being tinkered with. What is that about? Do the Phillies want to move Kyle Schwarber out of the leadoff spot, and why? Because I know fans want him out of the leadoff spot for some reason. A Philly segment coming up next on Philly with John Marks. Back in 2 and 2. Hoo-ah! All right, Central City Toyota. Actually, I think Uncle Jamie, I should text him and say he wanted to come on late last week, but then he got sick. So he's got a lot to say. So maybe we'll get him on tomorrow with Black Gritty. But Central City Toyota, because I'm actually going to be over there tomorrow because I need the service, right? I need the car service. I need the oil change. I need the brakes checked. I need the tires rotated. I need all this stuff, right? And if you work in Center City and you're saying to yourself, like, yeah, you know what? I really need the car service too. Instead of going to the dealership, and even if you go to Central City Toyota on a Saturday, that's great. But if you spend 3 hours in a dealership on the weekend, or you're trying to get it done after work, you're going into work early, check it out. Go to centralcitytoyota.com. You can schedule an appointment where they come and grab your car. If you're working in Center City, they'll come get your car. They'll take it back to Central City Toyota in the heart of University City, and they'll service your car, and then they'll drop it back off. You go to work, you come out at the end of the day, and guess what? Your car's serviced, and like you don't even know that it really happened. But it did. It did. So now you don't have to waste your time. CentralCityToyota.com. That's also where you can see their entire inventory. I'm talking about new, and I'm talking about certified Toyotas. That's from Central City Toyota and their sister dealership, Ardmore Toyota. Great selection right now on all new and certified Toyotas. So check them out. And you're dealing with my Uncle Jamie, the general manager. He's been there for 30 years. They've been in the heart of University City, 55 years on Chestnut Street. Just get out there right now. Don't kick open the door, but push open the door and say, I want to talk to Uncle Jamie. I watch Philly with John Marks. CentralCityToyota.com. Check him out. Check him out. Hoo-ah. All right. So, Glad Hair Restoration. I have a new before and after. All right. Because this is what and honestly, I was looking at the hair today when I was styling it before going on. And I need the haircut because it's getting a little bit long and it needs to be shaped up, but it's a little bit long on top. So, look at the before and after. So the before is actually taken from my engagement party. So that is coming up on 12 years ago. And the hair is not bad, right? Like, Tyler, would you say my hairline is terrible right there? I mean, it's not good.
Nah, that one's not bad.
It's not bad, but it was 12 years ago. So what would it look like today? I know what it would look like today. My head would be shaved because it would have gone back so far, but that was the start of it. And I noticed in a driver's license picture, I'm like, wow, like my hairline's really receded. Now look at the after picture. That's my wife's birthday, my wife's 40th birthday. And she's lovely. But like, so that for me, so for a lot of people, and you can cut back to me, Tyler, for a lot of people, right? Like if you're really receding, Glad Hair Restoration can help you out. I mean, it can really, really give you great coverage. But in particular, if you're starting to lose hair and you're really starting to thin, you can get it done and no one needs to know you get it done. No one knew that I had it done. I told my barber, John, my longtime barber, John, in the chair, I'm like, yeah, I had hair restoration. Like, what do you mean you had hair restoration? I'm like, I had hair restoration. Like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I had hair restoration. Like, and so somebody that close cutting my hair could not tell that I had hair restoration because it's your real hair. They're not taking, you don't have the sewing kit and they're sewing hair. No, this is your real growing hair. This is science. You can regrow your hair. And the only place to do it is Glad Hair Restoration. GladHairMM.com, the most experience and the most success when it comes to hair. In Philadelphia, in the surrounding area, I'll say how in the entire country. Most experience, over 30 years of experience in the business. So I talked about restoration. That's not all they do. Innovation, right? So you're just starting to go bald. And you're like, you know what? I don't know about hair restoration, but I'd sure like to keep the existing hair that I have. They got something for you. Maintenance, right? Every year I go for maintenance to Glad Hair Restoration. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. There's vitamin supplementation. A lot of women right now that are losing hair, that are thinning, that are shedding, menopause, postpartum, the vitamin supplementation right now is the craze because the results are amazing, right? Glad Hair experts, all of the above. 610-980-4000, 610-980-4000, or the website is gladhairmm.com, G-L-A-T hairmm.com. Hoo-ah. All right, we're back. All right. So it was, the weather's gotten a little warmer out there. We were in a period, man, it felt like it was would wake up, Tyler and I, when you work early mornings and it's really cold out, and we're getting in the car, it's at 1 degree, 2 degree, 10 degrees, 15 degrees. It's been nice. This morning it was 40 when I left my house. It's going to be in the 50s again today. So it's been nice. But normally when that happens, it coincides with Phillies baseball starting down, spring training, Clearwater, Florida. And you watch the game, even if you're looking at some guy that's wearing 73 on the back of his jersey, and he's a non-roster invitee. Like, it's still, like, I don't even care who I'm watching at that point. And by the way, I pay attention to the minor leagues more than the average Phillies fan, as does Tyler Zulli. Like, we're kind of minor league experts. I think Preston Mattingly could hire me, and I could go down and I could evaluate the minors. But anyway, so like I just love watching spring training games. I love Phillies year round. I love the entire season. It's a lot of fun. But doesn't it feel like with this lineup, and Tyler, I know that you've been talking about this a lot. Tyler, of course, is now our primary host on PHLY Phillies. He's doing live shows on Mondays and Fridays, and then he's doing videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll have some fresh content for you today. But doesn't it feel like that the Phillies are hell-bent on getting Kyle Schwarber out of the leadoff spot? Did you feel like that as well, Tyler? Because I know fans always want it for whatever reason. No, you need you can't have Kyle Schwarber hitting leadoff. He needs to be down on the lineup. Do you feel like that they're trying to get Schwarber out of the leadoff spot?
Yeah, it certainly feels like that's the trending path to this season, and whether it be Trey Turner at the top of the lineup or whomever it might be, it does feel like that's the trending path. I don't necessarily agree with it.
Right. I
think there's, I laid this out last week. Like, Kyle Schwarber is a catalyst for this lineup. People want to argue that the solo shot versus hitting fourth, whether it's a 2 or a 3-run home run, what is that spark compared to the leadoff solo shot? But my retort to that is he only definitively leads off the game or leads off an inning one time. After that, it's up to chance of the lineup. So What is the likelihood that Kyle Schwarber is the first batter of an inning past the first at bat of the game? And so whether it's the first at bat of the game or not, if you're up 1-0 in the blink of an eye, I think that means something to your team. I think that's a catalyst. I think that's a spark. Now, I get the argument of people saying, well, he's not a threat to run on the bases, because I use the argument that he walks a ton of 100+ walks, average 106 walks each of the last 3 seasons. His on-base percentage, even when his batting average isn't good, his on-base percentage is excellent. And so you put all of those things together, and I understand he's not your traditional leadoff hitter, but he gets on base, he drives in runs, he's a catalyst for the top of your lineup. To me, I understand that the way they kind of floundered down the stretch, and that was a team collective thing, I think he is your catalyst for the rest of this offense, and to me should still continue to be the leadoff hitter.
So I just went to MLB.com has projected every team's projected 2025 opening day lineup. Trey Turner leading off. This is stupid. Trey Turner leading off. Bryce Harper hitting second. Alec Boehm, Schwarber cleanup. Castellanos, Stott, Real Muto, Kepler, Brandon Marsh batting ninth. And if Rojas is in there, he's hitting ninth. I don't know if Marsh is hitting ninth, if he's the center fielder or whatever. Maybe I'm totally off here. But so there's 2 things with the Schwarber leadoff thing. I think it's less about Schwarber and it's more about Trey Turner. They're trying to figure out how to get Trey Turner to be the guy that they thought they were signing when they gave him that long-term contract. And he's been inconsistent, and he's had stretches where he's been good, but Trey Turner has been a better player in this league than he has showed with the Phillies. How do you get him going? I think they wanted Trey Turner to hit leadoff because if you remember, he did hit leadoff when he came here. The problem was he wasn't effective doing it. And the second part of it is Kyle Schwarber's just better when he hits leadoff. I don't know why. I don't know. If you could get Kyle Schwarber's production at cleanup, well, it's a no freaking brainer. Sure. If you would put him at cleanup. He's not the same player when you put him at cleanup. For whatever reason, when he's hitting leadoff to start a game, he looks like a different batter at the plate. He's a different hitter when he hits leadoff. And guess what? The problem with this lineup ain't Kyle Schwarber, everybody. He has a ton of power. He's been at the top of the home run leaders pretty much every year that he's been here. He has a high on-base percentage. He sees pitches. you said it's a perfect way to describe him. He's a catalyst for this lineup. Like the fact that this team is very home run hitter heavy, like Kyle Schwarber's hitting 47 home runs, man. Like I'm not going to complain that they're hitting too many home runs, right? So like the problem as I see it, Tyler, is that it's an awkward lineup. Do you know what I mean? Outside of Harper really kind of being your third hitter, who's the cleanup hitter?
I think that's where fans are using, and I used it a lot on Friday. You're using the word traditional, right, to describe your lineup. And I think what traditional has become is what you've done over decades of baseball and what you would do like in your MLB The Show lineup, right? I would hit Kyle Schwarber fourth in a perfect lineup that is an MLB The Show type of lineup, but that's just not how life is.
No, you're right. It's a video game,
right?
It's a video game.
It's not how life is proceeding with this team, and so to me, like somebody tried to bring me up the argument the other day that because I brought up he has 100 plus RBIs each of the last 2 years. In his first year with the Phillies, he had 94. Again, primarily all in the leadoff spot. And somebody tried to argue with me that was a low number comparably with the fact that he plays every day and he's a power hitter and all that kind of stuff. And so, John, I went and I looked at the other RBI leaders for 2024. There were 16 players that had 100 or more RBIs in 2024. Kyle Schwarber was tied for 10th. Amongst the three guys that were tied for 10th were Kyle Schwarber, Marcell Ozuna, and Salvador Perez. Salvador Perez played 8 more games than Schwarber did. Marcell Ozuna didn't miss a game all season. Schwarber had 1 less home run than Ozuna, had 11 more than Perez. But the point being is Perez walked 44 times. Ozuna walked 74 times. Schwarber walked 106 times. Schwarber's on-base percentage is better than those two guys. Schwarber's ability to kickstart the game has been better than most guys across baseball because of the threat to hit the home run to open up the game. 38 home runs is his career, his Phillies low for a season. He had 38 last year, and that's the least he's hit as a Philly. To me, he had like the point that I laid out was 21.5% of Kyle Schwarber's plate appearances on average per season result in a home run or a walk. And I understand that that's a mentality that, he's going to strike out almost 200 times a year. That's just the bad that comes with the ultimate good of Kyle Schwarber. But if you're thinking about 1/5 of every plate appearance or 1 of every 5 plate appearances that Kyle Schwarber has in any given season ends with a positive outcome of a walk or a home run, you've not included doubles. You've not included singles. You've not included sac flies. And so all of that to be said, you could just immediately just chop off 1/5 of his at-bats are going to be positive outcomes, and 1 is going to be an ultimate positive outcome, even if it is only driving in 1 run with a solo home run.
I mean, 46. He led the league in homers, 46 home runs, 47 home runs. Last year, his average actually was up, so his on-base percentage was high. So here's the problem. So let's do this. All right. So you look at the lineup, and I'm just gonna ideally, where does Trey Turner bat in a lineup? Without looking at the Phillies lineup, ideally, where do you bat?
1 or 2.
1 or 2. Bryce Harper.
3. 1 through 3.
3 or 4.
Yeah, 1 through 3.
Or if he wants to hit like Barry Bonds and Jeff Kent, Barry Bonds would be your 3 hitter. There were years where Jeff Kent was really cold and he sucked. You know what they did? Flip-flopped him. And they had Barry Bonds hitting cleanup. Guess what Jeff Kemp saw a lot of?
Pitches in the strike zone?
Fastballs. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Alec Boehm, ideally, where does he hit?
In a perfect world, 5. 5. I would be okay if Boehm was a 2-hole hitter because of his doubles power, but he doesn't run the bases particularly well. And then if you're going Schwarber, Boehm back to back, clogged. I think in a perfect world, probably 5.
Right. So 5. Castellanos, same thing.
5 or 6.
5 or 6. Yeah. Stott.
2 or 7.
Real Muto.
2 or 7.
Right. Kepler.
Bottom of the order.
Right. And Marsh.
Bottom of the order.
So you have a lot of the same guys as far as what their profile is, where they should hit in a lineup, which leaves holes because you don't have your prototypical cleanup hitter. And that's what it seems like the Phillies are trying to say. And I get it, and I'm good with it. But he just hasn't been that for whatever reason. I remember talking to Larry Anderson about it. We got to get LA on. When I had him on for years as a weekly guest on my WIP show. And he wasn't criticizing him. He was trying to understand the psychology of why can't Schwarber be the same type of hitter hitting in the cleanup spot? Because they could, if he had the same production as a cleanup hitter, your lineup problem solved. So I think because the Phillies were trying to fix the lineup because they saw that it was like, you know what, like it's not working. We get to the playoffs and pitchers know how to pitch us. So what do? They tried to make some moves. Bohm, they tried to move off of to try to switch the lineup up. That didn't work. So really, you're coming back essentially with the same team and the same lineup with Kepler now in left field. But like it's the same lineup. So you're not like Schwarber hitting cleanup. If that can work, that changes the dynamic of your lineup so much. So we'll see where it goes. I think when it's all said and done, I think Schwarber is your leadoff hitter. Because if you want to tinker in the beginning of the season, now are you not only hurting the top of your order, but are you also hurting the cleanup spot? I don't know. I mean, if Schwarber can be a 45 home run hitter and hit cleanup, let's do it. Do it 2 years ago. He hasn't shown to be that player. He just hasn't. So we'll do some lineup stuff. I know Tyler's cooking up some PHLY Phillies to put the lineup out there. But I don't need to move off of Kyle Schwarber from the leadoff spot. It ain't broke, don't fix it. He's been fantastic. And I don't need Willie McGee or Vince Coleman at the time. He had 5 steals last year. So it's not like he doesn't, I know he's not a speed demon. He did have 5 steals last year. But so who it's to? Trey Turner?
Well, and that's the thing. So if Schwarber is your leadoff hitter, you're looking at a fairly identical lineup to what you had last season. So if Schwarber leads off, it's going to be Turner too, because you're going to at some point you are going to have back-to-back lefties. When Kepler and Marsh play together, you're going to have 5 lefties and 4 righties. It's just going to happen. So to me, that piece of conversation is important. It's about mitigating the amount of lack of success if a lefty comes into the game late in the game. And so I personally look at the lefty-lefty split at the bottom of the lineup as important. Like, I would not hit Kepler and Marsh back-to-back. I would have Kepler hit 7th and Marsh hit 9th, because I would rather my lefty-lefty combo, because I have Schwarber at the top of the lineup, be Marsh and Schwarber as opposed to Kepler and Marsh. All this is important.
Alec Bohm is your 3-hitter? Is that really what you want? I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, I would have Bohm hit 4. And I know he's, again, traditional is the word we're going to use. He's not a traditional power hitter,
but he's a run producer. He's an RBI
machine.
Guy.
His ability to hit with runners in scoring position is there. 40+ doubles last year. Like, he's a gaps hitter who drives runs in, and that to me is enough for this lineup's construction of being a 4-hitter.
Here's the reality of it. When Charlie Manuel had his Phillies teams, his lineup was essentially set. He tinkered a little bit when guys got cold or whatever, but for the most part, you knew what the lineup card was before the game started, when the day started. Rob Thompson's not going to have that luxury. So I like you've seen him do before. Castellanos is going to get moved around the lineup. If he's cold, he's going to get moved down. If he's hot, you might even hit him cleanup. Trey Turner's been moved around a lot because they've been trying to get him. Like, there's only a couple guys really that are going to stay where they're going to stay in this lineup. I mean, this lineup's actually from Zielecki. So maybe Turner, Harper, Bohm. I don't know.
Oh, and listen, here's the thing. When I believe that Kyle Schwarber should be the leadoff hitter, I am under the impression now that this team is going to change the lineup heading into 25. Like, my argument has been Schwarber is the leadoff hitter each of the last couple of seasons, and they have proven that that's the way that they want it to go about it. For right or wrong, that's the way they wanted to do it. This season, I'm heading in with the idea that I am going to be proven wrong by what I think should be versus what I think they're going to do.
Two separate things. Yeah. All right, we'll come back. Devon Givens, the state of the 76ers. They were down by 50 points last night. I was not watching when they were down by 50 points. Honestly, this is the happiest I've been about the 76ers in a long time. They're actually doing what I want them to do. Losing. Lose. Full tank mode last night. I think Rich Hoffman, you had told me on the post-game show, his or did he write about it in the PHLY Daily?
Yeah, his so every game, I think the PHLY Sixers crew does 3 takeaways, And Rich's 3 takeaways yesterday were incredible tanking masterpiece.
By the way, subscribe to PHLY Daily. Just go to allphly.com. Rich Hoffman gives you the Philly morning sports page and does a great job with it. I look at it every day. Yep. So thank you, 76ers. But what's the latest with Joel Embiid? And like, what's the vibe being around the team? From Devon, who, by the way, Devon's a very positive 76er fan. So I'm looking forward to talking to D coming up next. Philly, John Marks, don't go anywhere. Hey, listen, we're here, Parks Casino, my casino of choice. Great headline entertainment for the new year, concerts, comedy, MMA, boxing at the state-of-the-art Excite Center, and slots, live table games, beautiful poker room. Everything. Great restaurants. Parks Casino. This is how you win. Pennsylvania's #1 casino. And tickets are on sale for a variety of different acts that are going on right now. So we're in the March with Scotty McCreery from American Idol. Michael Carbonaro, magician, March 8th. March 20th, a second show has been added for comedian Ron White. Country superstar Lee Brice, March 22nd. Larry the Cable Guy, May 16th. Don't forget, dinner and drinks before the show. Parks Grill Steakhouse. You know, if you're just looking for a good dinner, you don't even have to be a gambler or seeing a show. Parks Grill Steakhouse. It's like you are going to a high-end steakhouse. Liberty Bell Gastropub, sandwiches, wings, beers, amazing place. Bamboo Noodle House. ParksCasino.com to buy tickets for all shows. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about TrueMark. Yeah, I'm a TrueMark customer. I can personally attest to the people at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. The Audubon location, Trooper Road. Donna, who got me hooked up with my business account. And I walked in there and I was like, I had like the two handfuls of papers and like folders. And I'm like, I need to open up a business account. I didn't know what the hell I needed. I didn't know what papers I needed. And they worked with me and I appreciated it. Got it signed up, got it set up, got my business set up. And like, if you're just walking into the cookie cutter bank or wherever, and they're just like, well, no, like you need to, no, like TrueMark, that's not the way it is. They're there with you. Mary Ellen, they've worked together for 15 years, but all of their locations, all the TrueMark Financial Credit Union locations are amazing. Can't recommend them enough. But if you're in a little bit of debt and you're looking at your credit card statement and it's like, I just paid $100 in interest last month. I got to do something about it. I don't have the money to pay off the balance. Well, you got a couple days left here, folks, to get a TrueMark Financial balance transfer. 0 interest on all balance transfers for 12 months. Transfer your existing balance for another institution to a TrueMark Financial Visa credit card to take advantage of this amazing offer. But again, February 28th, 2025, you got to get in now. Visit TrueMark.com/compare for full details and to apply today. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by NCUA, equal opportunity lender. Terms and conditions apply. All loans subject to approval. 3% balance transfer fee applies. Standard rates apply after the promotional rate. There you go. I remember when I worked with Anthony at the Fanatic Mornings, and you have some people that are very organized. I use a backpack when I put all my stuff in a backpack or whatever. Anthony would have like an Acme bag, like a plastic Acme bag, and he would have all his papers in his Acme bag. And he'd come shuffling in the door with a Starbucks in one hand and sometimes an Acme bag full of papers and a notebook in another. That's how I was at TrueMark when I was coming in to open up my business account. But joining us right now, speaking of the Fanatic, my old buddy from 97 Fanatic, but now an absolute star and stud, PHLY Sixers. Devon Givens joins us right now. What's up, D?
What's up, Johnny? What's going on, man?
You're looking good. You're looking young, man.
I'm trying, learning from you, man.
Man, let me see. Hold on. Are you just for men in that beard? I don't see grays or whites in there.
Well, they're a little bit, but they're a little bit in there. It's the camera. You can't see them. I guess you would have to see them when we catch up.
Okay, so you can see mine. I look. My kids call me Santa Claus right now. I look like Michael McDonald from the Doobie Brothers from back in the which Doobie you be?
Oh man.
All right, so dude, every time I bring you on, I always say that like you are not that I like to be negative on the 76ers, but I hate this team so much. I just do. And I don't hate the players, I just hate the team. I hate where we are right now. And I look back to the Brett Brown days and I long for him. I long for the beginning of the process. I long for JJ Redick and Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons, and like when they actually, the window was there and they had the freaking chance, Devon. They had the chance, man. Joel was healthy enough. They had the chance. It feels like that's over. It feels like the window is closed. And now you have the injury with Joel, and none of it makes sense. Why is he playing? Why didn't they shut him down? What's going on with them? What is going on? What is going on with the Sixers right now?
Well, first, when you bring back that team, they had the opportunity in 21 when they were the number 1 seed and they lose to Atlanta in that semifinal matchup at home, Game 7. Last night, Kevin Huerter, ironically enough, playing for the Bulls, decides he wants to shoot like he has Seth Curry right in front of him, like that Game 7. He couldn't miss from 3 last night. So what's going on with them? Yeah, this is the most stunning season that I've seen in a long time. When you talk about the rebuild and Brett Brown and all that stuff, and then Brett Brown, of course, coaching them into the playoffs and where they were, this one is more stunning because of what they were supposed to be or what they would build to be coming into this one. And that's what makes it all the more frustrating, the more stunning, because of how you put this roster together, even with the questions with Joel coming out of the Olympics and resting during the training camp and all of that. The expectation was still pretty high when Paul George is supposed to help Tyrese Maxey carry the load when Joel is out. And that hasn't happened. And yes, he's been injured too. Those 2 knee injuries back to back early on with the bone bruise. I said it before, it's not his fault. There's nothing he could do about that. But he looks like he lost something too. The burst is not there. The explosiveness is not there on his drives to the basket. He has a game every 10 games where you're like, oh, there's Paul George. That's what you expected when you signed him. But that's few and far between for this basketball team. So you couple that with the other small injuries that they've had for lesser players, the fact that they were older, where I didn't think, and I read that wrong, I didn't think that would be necessarily a problem as the season progressed. And then the issues just with the roster overall, where you have to lay that at the feet of Daryl Morey. Then you tag that on to Nick Nurse and how it seems like he's lost the team, and you still have 25 games left on the season where we can no longer talk about the play-in tournament. That should not be a conversation. So coming out of the All-Star break, Johnny, they were all talking about the play-in tournament, saying this tournament was built for a team like us. We weathered the storm as best as we could. Now we're getting our guys back healthy. Well, Joel Embiid should not play the remainder of the season. Paul George is dealing with that pinky issue that last night didn't show anything as to why he should be out there on the floor. And even though Tyrese Maxey now has a pinky injury, he went out there and he hooped. He did what Tyrese Maxey does. You can't blame him. But the team's just simply not good enough. You lose to the Brooklyn Nets before the break. You lose to the Brooklyn Nets after the break. You get blown out by the Boston Celtics. And last night you were down, as you said, Johnny, by 50 to the Chicago Bulls. Oh, by the way, while the Sixers are on their 8-game losing streak currently, the Bulls heading into the game, the Sixers were a 7-game losing streak. The Bulls were on a 6-game losing streak themselves. And they beat you by 32, and at one point were up by 50 and were toying with you in that game last night. So what's wrong with them? They're bad. That's what's wrong with them.
What do you make of everything that we hear is that Joel and his camp are sensitive when it comes to the injury talk, right? Like they were perhaps dictating in training camp, and the Sixers are kind of like, we don't know what to say because they don't want us to say anything or whatever. But what do you make of Daryl Morey coming out and saying, we're not worried about Joel's knees. We don't think he needs surgery. We think he's fine. And then Embiid 2 days later or the next day to Lisa Salter says, oh yeah, I need surgery. And everything that he said since then has been, you can tell that, I mean, I'm not right. Like I need rest. I need something done. Where's the disconnect? Is Joel worried about what people are looking at him and saying like, well, obviously I'm not healthy. I need surgery. But coming right off of where it feels like the 76ers are trying to protect him by not saying he's hurt. Like What's the deal with the injury stuff, and what do you make of kind of the disconnect between the two camps?
Well, to start off, as you said about Joel in the very beginning, trying to control some of the messaging, that's always been the case since his earlier years when it became very clear that he was going to be the face of the franchise. That has always been the case. So that hasn't changed all the way from 2014, or let's say at least 2016, when he was really starting to ease his way onto the floor and play in for the Sixers. But yeah, the messaging has been a problem, John, since day one from this season, where you had the issues from the Olympics. Again, I was one that said play because I know how you felt, but I was one that said play because you don't get the opportunity all that much. I know that's a back and forth that everybody can have of where it was. You're supposed to be there for your organization, not necessarily swooping in for the country and winning a gold medal. But that's a discussion for another day. But the messaging from the very beginning from that was he injured and he shouldn't have played in the Olympics, to going into training camp, to what you just laid out there. Should they have pointed out that he might have needed some time, not to start the season right away because of playing in the Olympics, giving him that time and letting him just simply rest, rehab until he was absolutely ready to go. And since then, it has just been an up and down thing of looking at the injury report before every game, where we see that he might play. John is pretty much questionable every game. And as he's questionable, we start the pregame show. We put together our notes. We get everything together. And I look at Bree and say, all right, Bree, he's in. So we can go with this because, 15 minutes or 20 minutes before the game, they announced that he is playing. And while that has only been 19 games on the season, that's how it's been all season long, man, of just waiting and waiting, the messaging not being there, the messaging being up in the air. He's saying one thing, the organization saying another. And yes, he is very, very sensitive with how the message is delivered or how people talk about him out there in the world, in the basketball world, of what's going on, how he's going to play, or if he's going to be able to play or not. And he doesn't look right. And that's been part of the problem this season. They didn't do it. They didn't do themselves any good by the way that they said things. Even when Daryl Morey in his latest press conference after the trade deadline saying, if you squint hard enough, well, that one's going to live with him for a while now, about the squinting hard enough to see if they can make this playoff run for the play-in. And even with Joel saying that they don't need to go out there in surgery. And even now, Johnny, for them, Nick Nurse said last night that they're not ruling him out yet. It's unbelievable. What more do you need to see? They've looked at every specialist, every different type of rehab. He has the knee brace on with all of this extra padding and bandaging around that knee. He can barely move. If you saw in the game against Brooklyn where he tried to attempt to block a shot by the player in the corner, in the left corner, he landed, of course, on the good leg, but then immediately tumbled to the floor to avoid having to plant on that right leg. And then eventually he had an ankle injury that Kevin Johnson, the great trainer for the Sixers, had to wrap him up in some contraption, some sort of thing as he was on the sideline. So, yeah, the messaging has just been bad from both Embiid and from the Sixers.
The entire thing's so bizarre. What do you believe? And by the way, I was fine with him playing the Olympics. You know why? His knee was going to be injured whether he played in the Olympics or not. He has a knee injury that's going to continue to be like this the rest of his career. You hope you can find the balance and something where you can manage it. It's never going to be okay. It seems like everything that could go wrong has went wrong this year with the Sixers. You lose McCain, Embiid obviously with the injury stuff from Jump Street. Paul George has looked like a shell of himself, and he's been banged up. And you had said, and I agree with you, I think that the knee injury started him off on a really, really bad foot. What percentage chance would you give? Because for anybody that thinks they're trading Joel Embiid in the offseason, good freaking luck moving that contract. There ain't nobody that's trading for that contract and giving you any type of value in return. Right, so the Sixers aren't going to be moving off Embiid. What's the percentage chance that they come back next year with some tweaks and Paul George full offseason healthy, that they can get back to what they actually thought? And I'm not talking about championship, dude. I'm talking about to where they're not a total train wreck and they can come back out next year and give us the type of basketball we thought we were getting this year.
With this being a train wreck and spiraling out of control, are you also including that they keep the top 6 pick and luck up there? Do they get lucky?
I sure hope so. But with this team, who
Okay.
knows if that's going to happen?
Right. So let's just rule that out, because as you just said with this team, how do we know that's going to happen? I would give it, John, I mean, it's not going to be too high, but I would still give it somewhere in that 30-35% range that those three guys come back. You're more likely to get a healthy Paul George because he was healthy coming into the campaign, where, as you just laid out, Joel Embiid with the knee, that's just going to be a question for the remainder of his career if he can just play through whatever he can play through and help them out. And Maxi's going to be Maxi, so I'm not worried about him. So I do think that he's not going anywhere, Embiid, because, as you said, good luck trying to move that contract. That's not happening. His value is gone for right now. I could see them trying to maybe see about Paul George, but I doubt that happens either. So I would say it's about 30-35% that all three of those guys are back together. They give themselves another chance to get in there and reestablish themselves as a playoff contender, number one, as you said, and then later on see where things go from there and get back into that contending for a championship type of run. This is the 3-year window that they have left with Paul George on their books, and maybe they can move him at some point. But right now, these three, I think, with the tweaks that you just alluded to, I think this is going to be your core for next season. Maybe with Quentin Grimes, possibly with someone like Gershon Yabusele back on a longer term deal, and see what happens with Kelly Oubre, et cetera, with the rest of the roster. But I think that those three will lead this team next season.
We had Keith Pompeo on yesterday, and I agree with him. It feels like to me Morey's going to get one more year to make this right. And if it blows up in his face again, or it's like, wow, this is bad, it's almost going to be like a mutual thing. But, I don't think he gets whacked after this year. I think it's a very, very, very small chance. But what about the head coach? So your opinion on both guys? I mean, Nick, I'm not telling you Nick Nurse has gotten a good situation here in Philadelphia this year. He also hasn't impressed me at all with what he's been doing. Do you think because that makes Morey look bad again if he fires another coach, but GM and coach, how do you see them going forward? What's their status?
GM, I think he's back, so I agree with you and Keith. And as far as the head coach goes, somebody's going to fall on the sword, and I think it's going to be Nick Nurse. I do think it's going to be him, as you said. And I said this last season coming out of the year and going into this one that he still helped them get to the playoffs, and they battled to Game 6, and they lost. And B wasn't healthy after that first play he made with throwing the basketball off the backboard, buckling his knee. So that kind of and some misfortune with the calls and all in that series. But I think that he's lost the team right now. And I don't know how you square that with them going into the next season. And it's not to say that he should be fired, but I also don't know that Daryl Morey wants to attach himself to somebody who's going to be fired for him to get fired later. It's one thing to hire another coach, but I don't know that he wants to attach himself to be fired, saving his job, if you will, because the 3 stars are going to be back. He's going to be back. I don't know that all 5 of them will be back. Yeah. And I think that at least right now, it looks that way. We were talking about this last night, and we even said
one second, Devon, because we got a shout out everybody watching on TV. Get over to allphly.com to catch the rest of Devon Givens. Go ahead, Devon. I'm sorry.
That's right. All you fast people, go check us out on allphly.com. So yeah, man, it's one of those things where it's not his fault, but he hasn't done anything to really show that he should keep this gig right now. I was saying that when they were getting blown out by the Nets on Saturday, Rich and myself and Bree, we were sitting there and we were like, man, this is one of those games where you wonder if he's going to survive after this game. They came back and they lost at the buzzer. He saved himself. Again, you were down by 50 to the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, that's a game that gets you fired.
That's a game that gets you fired.
Yep.
Not that I'm saying I want you to get fired. I'm not rooting for you to lose your job. We're just talking about we've been around this long enough and we've seen how it works, where someone has to take the hit. And it seems like, John, they're on an 8-game losing streak. They have the Knicks tomorrow in New York. They have the San Antonio. They have the Golden State Warriors on Saturday at home, 8:30 nationally televised game, by the way, for the ESPN 8:30 Saturday night matinee, right? So that's 10 games in a row that they're going to have lost 10 games in a row. How do you justify that?
Jimmy Butler's going to be coming into town looking to score 50 in that game. And Warriors have been good since the trade. They've definitely had a little bit extra pep in their step. Jimmy's a good player. So, yeah, I'm all down with the tanking, and I love that they're losing. I also don't have to do pre and post for the next 25 games like you guys do. It's like Tyler and I were talking about this. I don't even know if it was on air or off air, but I remember before you started doing pre and post when Brian Seltzer had to do the pre and post the year they won 9 games. Yeah. And it's like, dude, you're in game 75. Like, and Brian's very thorough and he needs to give you the highlights. It's like, bro, just say goodbye and start, let somebody get on and start screaming and yelling about the team, right? Like, come on, man. So listen, good luck to you for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Because like you said, the games don't matter anymore. The games really don't matter anymore. I don't know what matters. I don't know what you guys are going to talk about. Maybe some Flyers. I don't know, man. But you guys do a good job regardless. Yeah,
we've already started to plan out some of those things because we see what's in our near future. Yeah, we've already started to plan out how we attack some things. Because man, even last night, one of the questions I had, Rich, sorry, man, was how should they approach the final 25 games? This was pregame, because Embiid was already ruled out.
Then
so
they
my
lost
question
by 50.
to him, then they lost by 32, down by 50.
Down by
and
50.
We said, let's revisit this in the post game. And we did what the approach, as you just said, what the approach is for the final 25. So yeah, man, it's going to be a tough one. But I mean, the good thing about it is if they do what we want them to do now going forward, and I don't think they have to try, they're bad. So they're going to lose games. By the way, Johnny, they have 4 games a week in the month of March. That they're going to lose games. And the one good thing is the draft lottery is not until May 13th. So when the season ends around the 7th of April, 8th of April, somewhere around there, we will still have a month with the fingers crossed and all kinds of things that we're, some good juju for the Sixers to keep that pick, keep that top 6 pick, man, and find a way to land one of those top prospects. So that's going to be
I think they'll have a top 6 worst record, but those lottery balls because the teams that are below them, they're not trying to win games either. So you're going to be in a race against teams that aren't going to win games either. So you'd almost have to lose every game to be the 4th or the 3rd, certainly even the 5th. So all right. Well, listen, Godspeed to you. Man. Godspeed to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm sure I'll be on your show again at some point as we wrap up the season in this mess.
Yes, soon. Yes. I love talking about the Sixers that don't involve games, and we're just talking about the complete chaos that's happening down there. All right, man. Well, listen, I'll be tuned in. I'll be tuned in regardless, just for you and Kyle and Derek and Rich and everybody. All right. But so thank you, Devon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. See you soon.
All right, buddy. Devon Givens, PHLY Sixers. Appreciate it. Shout out to everybody watching live that stay with us for the entire hour on YouTube. Appreciate it. Watch live every morning at 8 o'clock with our community of mad chatters. Also available whenever you want on YouTube. Just click the link. Follow me on social media at John, Jon Marks, Marks Media, at John Marks Media. Email me, same thing, at gmail.com. And we will be back tomorrow. Ant is live. I heard him yelling earlier, so I know he's in the house. He's live, so switch over to the Anthony Gargano Show. We're back tomorrow. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.